SWNZ, reporting on all Star Wars hobbies in New Zealand. Hey everybody, this is Matt recording for SWNZ Star Wars New Zealand, and today we're going to take another look at a unique New Zealand Star Wars collectible from 1997, the Quality Bakers Star Wars Original Trilogy bread cards. Now, as I say, these came out in 1997, so prior to the release of the prequel trilogy in New Zealand. 1997 was actually the year that the special editions of the original trilogy actually came out in theatres in New Zealand in March and April, but this series of cards is actually just based on the original theatrical release of the original trilogy movies. It was an interesting promotion that came in packets of bread from Quality Bakers and was associated with a competition. It's a series of 10 cards in total that were packaged one per bag of bread, and they feature heroes and villains from the first 3 released Star Wars movies, so Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi, of course. So most of the bread products from Quality Bakers in New Zealand came with these, and the way they were packaged is you can just see here they were inserted into the interior of the bag, adhered to the front just behind the label. That meant that in some instances, as we can see just here, you could actually see what the card was going to be, which sort of helped you collect up your series of 10 characters. So just to run through this, these are some of the products that the collectible cards came in. So fiber white, Vita Rich bread, rainbow bread, another Vita Rich toast bread, and fiber white again. So we can see on the packaging here we have quite a bit of information about the cards and the competition. Win Star Wars watches, yo-yos and videos plus $10,000 in cash. That was the prizes of the competition. Now, the way the competition worked was really quite interesting. 10 cards in total packaged inside the bags, and when you pull them out of the bag they had this plastic game card over the top. Each plastic game card, when you pulled it off the card, it was a transparent playable game card that relates to this part of the bread bag. If you're lucky, you could get these plastic cards off without damaging the surface of the cards, but occasionally they are adhered down in a way that actually means that you did damage the surface of the card. They're adhered down over, as we can see here, over the front of the card, which made it just a little bit problematic. You had to take them off very carefully, and if they're still been on the cards all this time, I wouldn't risk taking them off. Once you did get these game cards off the collectible cards, you lined it up with this playable component on the bread bag, and if you line the arrows up perfectly, it will reveal a word. So in this instance, you can just see there, if I can get the camera to focus, it says the word draw at the bottom. If you won a watch or a yo-yo, it would show up in the pattern in the grids above. If you didn't win a watch or a yo-yo as an instant prize, if you won the draw, then you could collect up 4 of these draw game cards and send them in to go into the draw for the $10,000 prize, or one of 100 copies of Star Wars on VHS video. So that sort of dates the whole competition, gives you an idea when it came out. Let's just look at the bags a little more closely. There's some Star Wars graphics and Star Wars logo associated with the packaging, which makes these quite cool collectibles. And as I say, in many instances you can still see the collectible card, how it's inserted in there behind the main logo of the cards. Let's take a look at these cards in their own right. So here's a handful of the cards for examples. We'll take a look at them all in their entirety. On the back of each of the respective cards, they have some character information describing the respective characters. For some reason or another, they're an interesting little, quite glossy finish to these small cardboard cards. They tend to have a tendency to curve over time, even if they've been stored in protective sleeves like this, which is the little interesting artifact of the material they were constructed from. But a series of 10 in total, and you can collect them with and without the game cards, depending on how completist you want to be. R2-D2, Han Solo, Princess Leia, Chewbacca, Darth Vader, Boba Fett, C-3PO, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Yoda. And finally, Luke Skywalker as number 10. Most of them are in a portrait orientation, but the last three, Obi-Wan, Yoda and Luke Skywalker, are presented in this landscape edition. Let's take a look at those cards really closely on the screen in a quick slideshow now. The backs of the packaging, as we can see here, as I say, describe the characters in quite detail in some instances. You can see that there's quite a large body of text for some of them, and it's all telling the story and some of the backstory, so some of the material is not even necessarily from the movies at the time. So for the Boba Fett card, for instance, it describes the bounty hunter Boba Fett, who is known and feared throughout the galaxy, wearing Mandalore battle armor, the armor worn by a group of evil warriors defeated during the Clone Wars by the Jedi Knights. And remember, of course, that this came out in 1997, so before the prequel trilogy even came out. It's quite interesting to consider that sort of expanded universe description of some of the characters in the context of the time that they were released. So, very fun set of collectibles. They came out at a point in time where there wasn't a lot else going on in Star Wars. Things were just starting to build up with the special editions coming out in 97 in advance of the prequel trilogy, but we weren't seeing a lot of merchandise prior to this, so they went under the radar a little bit. They weren't quite as, there wasn't quite as much hype associated with these as there was a couple of years later when The Phantom Menace came out. So which means these are in some ways a little bit rarer than, for instance, the Bluebird gold and red bordered cards that came out 2 years later in New Zealand. But a very fun collectible, even though it's a small set. They can be considered to have a few variants if you keep them with the game cards associated with them. We'll be taking a look at more unique New Zealand Star Wars collectibles on the SWNZ YouTube channel over the next little while, so stay tuned, subscribe if you'd like notifications when those videos come out. But in the meantime, thank you for listening, and may the Force be with you.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.